One of the most surprising things I noticed while going through Zach Wilson's film was just how bad he was at play action. Honestly, this was the most shocking thing I saw. The reason why I'm so surprised is because the number one thing he was good at in college was play action. How he consistently hit those deep passes all over the field left and right, I thought that skill set would follow him to the NFL. For example, Wilson had the best big-time throw rate in all of college football in his final season at BYU. On top of that, when you factor in his turnover-worthy play rate, Wilson was unstoppable. He rarely made mistakes, he rarely missed throws, and simply put, he was incredible on these plays. In the NFL, this wasn't the case in his rookie season. Wilson went from being the best play-action passer in all of college to one of the worst with the Jets. Now obviously, rookie quarterbacks do tend to struggle, but this drastic difference is still very surprising. In this video, I wanted to see what happened. Before we begin though, if you can do me a huge favor and like and subscribe to my channel, I would greatly appreciate it. So anyways, I mentioned that Wilson was really bad at play action. Let's look at an example from his game against the Patriots back in week 2. Before the snap, you have a single high safety deep. The Patriots love playing cover 1 and cover 3. Cover 1, either with a blitz or without one, is used a ton on third down. As this was a 2nd and 2 after an 8-yard run on first down, the Jets wanted to strike the Patriots defense with play action. I love the aggression of the play call and how they attempted to use the short down and distance to stress this defense. The design of this play is a sit route over the middle with a backside dig coming from the numbers. Wilson will progress through these reads, and then he'll work his way to the check down if nobody's open. After the snap, two things happened that should have changed Wilson's process. First, Corey Davis, who's running the sit route over the middle, was completely blanketed by the cornerback. JC Jackson did a fantastic job of sitting on his hip, and you can see that he was already looking for the ball. The other thing that happened was a free rusher that came from the linebacking unit after the tight ends didn't release down the field. In an ideal world, Wilson would have made his way to the second read, and he potentially would have hit his receiver after he broke on the dig. But again, the pressure was there, so that was never going to happen. What Wilson should have done was the following. He either should have dumped the ball at Davis's feet and lived to find another down, or he should have just taken the sack. This is just a simple case of forcing it to your first read regardless of situation. Now, Wilson actually threw 4 interceptions in this game. If you know anything about a Bill Belichick defense, is that you know that against the majority of quarterbacks, especially the young ones, that he's going to annihilate your game plan. He's great at disguising coverages, and he's great at taking advantage of your weaknesses. Sometimes he can just simply wait for your offense to make a stupid mistake. For example, on Wilson's second interception that came in the first quarter, Davis let the ball slip through his hands. It was then picked off. Sure, the ball was thrown a bit high, but at a certain point you can't blame Wilson for everything. While this one wasn't really his fault, both of his other two definitely were. What I noticed while going through his first 7 games of the season, it can be broken down into a few major points. Before we talk about them though, I want to give a huge shout out to HelloFresh for sponsoring this week's video. HelloFresh is here to make eating better and easier. No grocery stores or stressful meal planning, just everything to prepare a wholesome, delicious meal all delivered to your door. This week, my wife and I tried the crispy buffalo spice chicken. It was so incredibly good. The produce was fresh and a ton of flavor, the meat was portioned perfectly for us to share, and the recipe was so easy to follow it made the entire experience effortless. They have foolproof step-by-step recipes that make cooking simple and fun. Now, not only was everything delicious, but HelloFresh helps you reach your goals. They offer vegetarian, pescatarian, and fit and wholesome options and make it easy to stick to your plan. With these options, you can feel good about your choices without sacrificing any flavor. If you go to HelloFresh.com and use my code SamGold16, you can get 16 free meals across 7 boxes and 3 gifts. Again, go to HelloFresh.com and use my code SamGold16 to get 16 free meals across 7 boxes and 3 gifts. Back to the breakdown, one of the main things I noticed was just how many mistakes the Jets offense made throughout this game. There were many times where Wilson wasn't at fault. For example, I saw a ton of drops last season. For reference, the Jets were bottom 10 in drop rate in 2021. I also saw a ton of pressures let by his offensive line. The Jets were also bottom 10 in pass blocking efficiency too. Both of these issues compounded together, and they were extremely apparent in play action. Since play action typically features a deeper drop with a longer developing route down the field, Wilson didn't have as much time to go through all of his reads. He couldn't get past the first read on a number of these plays simply because the defense was able to get pressure quickly. It was like every other pass he had a defender in his face. Wilson was then forced to run. On top of this, the defense did a fantastic job of guarding their play-action passing attempts with a single high safety defense. If a defense can sit in a one high look and not have to change, your offense is essentially screwed. Playing single high, it allows your defense to put another defender in the box, and this helps you wrap up the run game. The point about single high is a big reason why many defenses will have to play the elite quarterbacks in elite passing games in cover 2 or cover 4. Having 2 safeties back there instead of the one, it helps slow down these big plays. On the other hand, the fact that defenses can cover the Jets' downfield attack with a single high safety defense, they never needed to adjust. This put the onus back on the offense. Then when a lot of your players are injured or just simply not that talented, this makes it really hard to make plays. Going down this rabbit hole just a little bit further, this usually led Wilson to a few problems. The first is that Wilson missed a ton of open receivers down the field. He would have a receiver breaking open over the middle of the defense and he simply wouldn't see them. The same thing happened up sidelines too. The pressure caused him to want to rush the play design instead of him being patient to allow the receiver to get open. This even happened when he wasn't under pressure too. On plays when Wilson did escape the pocket, showing off his great athleticism like he did in college, he would occasionally make a great throw to his receiver. However, these plays were few and far between. Wilson left so many yards on the field. I mentioned how the pressure would cause him to speed up his decision making. It also had an ill effect on his throwing motion too. He would occasionally short arm passes where he wouldn't fully go through his proper motion. This would cause the ball to sail and he'd miss his intended target. These issues were a big problem for Wilson throughout the first 7 games. They limited his upside. Defenses would take away any potential for a big play off his first read, and Wilson was either forced to throw short or he'd eventually make a mistake with the ball. Now, while all this sounds bad, and yes, the first half of the season was brutal by all standards, Wilson's season did get better. It can absolutely be broken down into 2 halves. In the first 7 games of the year, Wilson was one of the worst quarterbacks in all of football. Then Wilson suffered a knee injury in Week 7 against the Patriots and he missed the next 4 games. What's fascinating is that after Wilson returned from that injury, he was actually a whole lot better. Things actually started to turn around. Instead of launching balls down the field that had no chance of a real reception, Wilson played a lot calmer in the pocket. He was much more safe with the football. He did a much better job of taking the decisive throw underneath and getting rid of the football. Granted, he didn't make as many big plays, but Wilson stopped making nearly as many mistakes. For me, and when I evaluate rookies, I'd much rather see this than the opposite. Take this play against the Buccaneers in Week 17. It was 3rd and 10 in the first quarter. The Jets are on the Bucs' 27-yard line. Before the snap, Braxton Berrios motioned across the line of scrimmage. Not seeing anybody trail him across the field, this is a pretty good tell that the Bucs are in zone coverage. The defense ended up running cover 4. The Jets are running a seam and sit combo on the trip side of the field. They're also running a slant and wheel combo on the boundary side of the play. With the tight end lining up between the numbers and the left hash marks, his slant route has a good chance of being open simply by alignment. Even before this play began, the tight end has a leverage advantage on this defense. Assuming the boundary side linebacker covered the wheel and the deep left and the boundary side safeties didn't crash on the slant, this could be a reception. All Wilson has to do is fit the ball quickly between these zones. To do this, he has to get the ball out quickly, and that's exactly what he did here. Wilson recognized that Tampa Bay was keeping their too high safety shell after the snap, and the moment the underneath linebacker opened his hips to follow the wheel, Wilson knew he could squeeze the ball to his target. He took a quick 3-step drop from shotgun, and on the bounce of his final step, the ball was already out. Perfect timing, and the placement on the tight end's backside shoulder helped him protect the ball. This is the exact thing I wanted to see from a rookie. How Wilson adapted from the start of the season to the end could be shown on that same big-time throw versus turnover-worthy play graph I showed earlier. You can see how he moved across the quadrants from his first 7 games to his final 7. Going from the bad quadrant in the bottom right to the safe quadrant in the bottom left, this does a great job illustrating how things changed between these 2 halves. I don't want to say that the injury might have helped him in the long run because injuries are always terrible and I hate thinking like that, but honestly, Wilson just seemed to be a more decisive player. He seemed to have a much better feel for the offense. It also seemed like he had a plan post-injury after his first read fell apart. Wilson knew what to do if things started to go wrong. Add in the fact that he started throwing the ball away more frequently, and you easily get a better quarterback. Now, for the record, no, I'm not saying Wilson was lights out or that he stopped making stupid mistakes. He definitely still made errors. I guarantee you that there were a ton of throws in the second half of the season where Wilson would have liked the ball back. What I am saying, though, is that Wilson improved a lot on the poor start to his rookie year. Given the number of injuries his team faced to the wide receiving core and to his offensive line, this is a huge accomplishment. There is an actual reason for excitement. The improvement is all we can ask for in a rookie campaign, and Zach Wilson did just that. Well, that's all I have for you. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to support the channel, feel free to follow link to my Patreon account, and you can also like and subscribe below. Thanks again, and you can follow me on Twitter at SamuelRGold.